Hello again. Why did Schubert write so many songs? Yet another unanswerable question. Perhaps because Schubert was drawn to the world of poetry as no other composer. His attempts to succeed as an operatic composer were mostly doomed to failure. But in Schubert, the drama is the poetry, and the role of the piano, which was to become so emancipated in his Lieder, is the song's poetic conscience. We may wonder why many of the masterpieces are settings of mediocre verse, while many poetic masterpieces provide him with relatively sterile ground. But I digress. All discussion as to what constitutes a great Schubert song will be dealt with in a later video. I stated in my last video that my tally for the number of songs is 577, which, although considerably less than the usual estimate of 636, is still a lot of song. Schubert wrote far more songs than his contemporary Beethoven, and considerably more than Haydn and Mozart. Perhaps this was because he innately felt that Lieder was his thing, in the same way as Haydn for the string quartet and Mozart for the opera. Of course, the terrain was propitious. By the time he composed his first song in 1810 at the age of 13, poetic giants such as Goethe and Schiller were well established. But equally, there was a host of lesser poets, living or recently dead, who provided him with many texts. Meyerhofer, Hölty, Kosegarten, Salis, Sewis, von Schober, and so on. Nor should we imagine that the composition of the songs was evenly spread throughout his career. In the 20 years of his compositional career, he died at the age of 31, the bulk of his songs were written between the years 1815 to 1817. This can partly be explained by his preoccupation in later years with the composition of large-scale works such as symphonies, operas, masses, string quartets, piano sonatas, and so on. Also, in any given year, songwriting tended to be concentrated in spring and autumn, with summer given over to opera and other large-scale works. But one year in particular was particularly fruitful. I'll say that again. But one year in particular was particularly fruitful. I actually wrote that. Note to editor. Now that year was 1815, when he wrote 142 songs. On certain days, as many as 7. Perhaps, too, he was spurred on by the relative success he had as a composer of songs. They were his best-known works, with more than a quarter of them published in his lifetime. And his songs fell on fertile soil. The appetite for reading poetry out loud was at its zenith, and Schubert's settings struck a chord of empathy in his listeners. And lastly, the piano as an instrument was becoming emancipated. From the tiny, tinkily timbred clavichord and early fortepianos at the beginning of his career to the comparatively robust instruments available at the time of his death in 1828 was a quantum leap. Next time I'll be talking about some other aspect of Schubert's songs. Not quite sure what it will be, but hope to see you back. Thank you.